attendees and the mass media, and at the Secretariat of Tourism, we are really very proud to host all the attendees. This segment is of the utmost importance not only in Mexico but at world level because of the added value it has. And I'm speaking about the travelers of this segment because they identify themselves with the cultural and social values of the destination, and they really bring about more income than the other tourists because they really look for expectations. They want to meet, they stay longer, so on and so forth. And this represents a window of opportunity for our country and for some of the tourist destinations. However, we need to say that in order to take care of this segment, we have to have a culture of values in order to really make professional all the parties at stake, and we need to have very good connectivity as well. For this purpose, the Secretariat has implemented a strategy that will be together with the segment and to really get more benefits of this destination. Some have already participated in this certification workshop, some others are about to do so. But in order to know what the strategy is, the scope, and the potential this segment has in the industry, I want to request Jose Antonio Arellano, who is the director of Talento Consultores, to talk to address us in order to make this information available at all destinations in order for them to add up to this growing wave because it represents an important activity that must be used by our country. Thank you, Jose Antonio, and please give us all the information. Thank you. First and foremost, thank you very much for the opportunity. I think that for us, as Talento Consultores, more than director representing a structure in the LGBT structure, this is the cornerstone as to talent development, both in terms of institutions. So we think there is no better strategy than developing human assets of an institution, any organization. And actually, we do this with passion. And I think this is one of the most important characteristics that we have because large organizations can really represent their strategy with Talento. We, as a company, have worked for the last 3 years with the Secretariat of Tourism in the Federal District, and we have been able to move forward. I think this is a market segment, very interesting, by the way, but it has to be educated, and we also see what the challenges are, and we should not handle the GLBT brand as just one characteristic, but a very important effort. The gay tourist, of course, is very interesting, and among these attributes, there can be very ad hoc resources in order to deal with a strategy and promote tourism. And speaking about GLBT, the presentation is very quick, and as it was said by Mr. Bayan, we invited last year, and Paulina Dominguez helped us, the 32 states to participate in a course whereby we were going to develop our products. We were sharing strategies and Actually, it was a great experience, a 3 day experience, mostly interesting because we were able to visually all the challenges this destination has, but also for the tourist providers. So we need to go back to what is important, and we need to plant again in this forum the seed, so that those destinations that are interested in getting involved in the development of this product should see what we are going to do, what measures we are adapting, and what the Secretariat of Tourism says. We will see the first slide, and obviously, in this Direction General of of Tourist Product Innovation is in charge of positioning and diversifying all these products, which of them are competitive, and which of them can really generate the benefits the tourist industry has. As to the GLBT tourism, well, on the next slide, we see this statement that really is very representative, because, as we all know, when we speak about gay tourism, we still have some taboos. We had this experience with a hotel owner, and he was very much interested in the community. And a short while ago, 1 month ago, at the International Movie Film, there is the Magay Award, which is awarded internationally, and the directors were going to really join together. And this has to do with the projects over 2016. And the hotel really conditioned this is a gay friendly hotel, and in order to take care of these people, the hotel had 27 rooms. It was said that all the hotel had to be rented because, well, people were a little bit afraid of them, what type of party they were going to have. And we see that nowadays it is very important to convey the correct message to the entrepreneurs community. The OMT says, the World Labor Organization says that this is one perspective, one segment of people who have these rights, because being gay, well, does not make me different. I am gay. I have been living for the last 18 years with my partner, and this does not mean I am a strange person. And I, as any other tourist, I have a direct need of a fringe benefit of a service without having discrimination. And entrepreneurs will really tell us what is this about. This is a decisive factor, because actually we need to see, for instance, this homophobia communities or free of homophobia. And the ILO states some information that are specialists in creating strategies or business intelligence, just as at now community marketing. And the ILO published a study that states that gay tourism grows at a 10.3% vis-a-vis the 4.7 it had. And here we see that gay tourism exceeds the first country that has this type of service, which is China. In the link, we have the DINK, and this moves 10% of the volume of tourists. There are destinations, and we really travel because we are fully convinced about 15% of the expense is generated, and we represent 10% of the volume for tourism. We estimate a population of 180 million people in this community, and in the States, we have a potential market of 15 million, and in Mexico, 5.8 million. We belong to this LGBT community. LGBT started to convey to institutes, companies, and entrepreneurs, and even destinations. And for instance, what the difference between a transgender and intersexual? These are situations that usually bring up a lot of murmuring, and we need to have inclusion policies, and this is what we really want to propose during this project, to be able to make people aware that there are people different from heterosexual people. For instance, there are an asexual person. A transvestite can be heterosexual. This is why we need to know all the roots that will allow us to handle this situation. And this has been proven by the ILO research, and we see that we have an income of a large amount of money, whereas traditional 780, and this is produced by, I don't know now. Traveling is part of the community. Usually, we use our weekends. Not necessarily very many people think that it is to party, but no, we also travel because of culture, just to shop, and making the circuit. So we will see them a little bit later. How this trend can bring about, for instance, Toronto, when it hosted the World Pride, had an impressive income as to the flow of tourists. 1 million visitors by means of an event coordinated by governmental agencies, and this is in Toronto. So this was very interesting. On the next slide, we see that in the community we're very loyal to brands and destinations. Fortunately, we have very well positioned destinations, just like Puerto Vallarta. In the 70s, it was an icon for the US market, especially the California, the Canadian markets, and in one way or another, in the case of Cancun, a lot has been invested in developing very specialized products for the gay community, and also in Mexico City. And there is a special segment. These LGBT circuits, usually they can be seen in beach destinations, Acapulco, Los Cabos, Puerto Vallarta. However, gay circuits can really bring about a movement. For instance, in Barcelona, in 2 weeks, we have 1.5 million inhabitants, and it is not only the lodging, the activity, the party, there are also cultural events, social events, gastronomic events, and actually it is very, very interesting. So the most important thing for this are the policies, what we have discussed, legislations in favor of freedom and tolerance. We know that nowadays we have been asked, well, what is a good destination? Because there are destinations which are called family destinations, and well, we can say, well, in the mission of my state, I do not see directly this community in order to develop such a product. The LGBT product is not for every destination. It is for specialized destinations that have not only the infrastructure but the society's commitment and also from the entrepreneurs. It is a joint work. However, what becomes important is to see how at the government's agencies we can structure all this in order to do important things to develop the product. Oaxaca really must be recognized by me. Oh, I'm sorry, there is one person from Oaxaca. They have done something amazing, and to me, this is one of the most flexible states as to the cultural part, the adaptation part, and the inclusion part in the communities. For instance, we have the Mushi culture. It is a long tradition. We have to learn a lot of it, and as part of the community, we feel very proud. And we are open in order to promote a product that can really bring not beach tourism but culture, quality tourism that can really arrive at a destination. And of course, we are not going to look for a tourist that likes to party, but actually the one who is interested in culture. And of course, Mexico has this. 80% of our national market implies that we need to be attentive because we are kind of being framed. Not all gay tourism is beach tourism. We have gay tourism that really encompass all the facets. On the next slide, I show you that in March 2014, we directly had a reform to the federal law in order to really fight against discrimination, and the fact that the Supreme Court of Justice had forbidden that quoting of two people of the same sex cannot be discriminated has been great. In the state of Colima, these gay marriages are accepted, civil marriages as well. And last year in the state of Jalisco, we were able to open this, and now we see that this is also permitted in Coahuila and Querétaro. So it is amazing to see that there is wedding tourism, romance tourism, and this is just laying behind. And actually, by means of our legislation, we see how this can be really protected. Puebla has done really something very, very important. And last year, there was a making our process because it was indicated what is the tourist activity they had in order to bring about all this. So we see that this type of tourism can really promote our Mexican villages. So it is great that a full strategy is being implemented in order to take this to entrepreneurs and be able to work all together to develop the product. Now, the purpose this plan has, and as I was telling you, for the last 2 years we have been working, and this is summarized here. On the next slide, please. Basically, what we are looking for through this plan is to strengthen the LGBT tourist supply. And here we see that all this can be sold. And I'm not speaking about Mexico only, but about all the destinations. This is why we need to see what destinations are the ones that need the strategy for LGBT tourism. For us, it is very important to have a social and institutional environment that will promote inclusive tourism. I think this is very, very important because nowadays we all are really capable and must be taken care of by the people who are in this sector. So actually, what we are really interested in is to have income in the destinations we go to. On the next slide, this is what has been done in the last 2 years. So this is what Paulina Dominguez and Licenciado Bayona have been working with us in order to create a plan that must be made public because we want to tell you about all the improvements aimed at committing these destinations that want to work in this endeavor. We are here to support you in the development of your own strategy. We have worked in the liaison, in the binding processes governments must have, and we have worked in the development and also in the tools that will make this strategy feasible. We have included, for instance, CONACIDA, some other NGOs with CONAPRED for the discrimination part, where we have these working areas. We have a structure fully developed in order to support destinations. We have also worked in the training process of the public sector. The idea is to really convey it to what it is and to let the private sector know about it. So, in this way, we are able to do this, and this appears on our side. I will give you this information later, but you need to know that at federal level, we are working really hard so that this topic will be considered in the strategies as destinations, promoters, and it should be worked by the institutions to the communities. And this is also part of the others' efforts because they are developing a market plan and a dissemination media, specialized dissemination media. Before this, we have had a series of matters of challenges. What do we want to take as a brand? We know that Mexico gay friendly is a situation we can dream of, but we want really to have destinations that will form part of this strategy. Which are the critical factors of the destinations which are successful in the LGBT issue? The critical success factors. This is kind of a summary we have taken at the destination and secretariats of state level, where we have dealt with the strategies, with these pillars. We can do a lot, and it is here where the promotion council is working. First of all, we need to really be knowledgeable about respect, equality, how permissive we are. Well, of course, we have a homophobia levels. Unfortunately, there are very many situations that take place that reveal homophobia, but we need to probe how the present situation of our destination is. We need to have an inclusion service culture, and providers and need to have this first-hand information. This is not a situation we see as a really extraordinary training process, but actually we need to know that this is different, but we have to take it into account in order to offer a quality service by means of a culture in our society. One other aspect the successful destination strategy has is that we include society in the courses we have given. For instance, we see Barcelona, and the one that hosts the banner of the gay community is the governor, and all the people who work at the industry are really investing in an infrastructure in order to have a product for the community, and the society receives at these circuits and events the LGBT community. Next, we have the creation of these resources, tourist experiences for the target market. So we do not like to be discriminated. We do not like to be treated differently. And even in the gay culture, we discriminate some others. So, in the LGBT culture, there are subcultures. In a gay culture, for instance, there are birds, letters, but they have very interesting objectives in terms of their own industry. And finally, we see what has been centralized. And our plan is very, very simple. And I will offer this to you. And I myself and my colleague will be outside so that we will be able to share this part of the plan. We have support in order to provide information, a counseling process as to the validation of this strategy, and we also need a support to include this in the LGBA and to have this with the Gay Tourism Association. And for the service providers, well, you were given a flyer where the accreditation is a training process whereby we make sure that all the establishment have product standards and community oriented services. We validate all this with all the inclusion processes we need, and we see this LGBT tourist activity for owners and suppliers, and finally they are given a certificate that will last 2 years, and this certification is directly recognized by the Federal Secretariat of Tourism and the Federal Council. And here we have this badge and all those places that have this will be included in the strategy. In Talento Consultores, we see all the information. You go to the certification part, you have the general information on this supply accreditation plan as to destinations and the training for the service providers. And finally, we can see here what we can create. Real quick, this is in New York, and to take a look at the Argentinian strategy. This is the LGBT market, World Pride, the people who were in Toronto. This is the party. And there was in Toronto. It is amazing. And here we see the same society which forms part of the culture. And over here we see the art of the LGBT community in Toronto. And finally, the city was dressed in full color. And I sincerely thank your attention, and we will be outside. And I thank you very much